All right, welcome back to another episode of the Cybersecurity Mentors podcast. On today's episode, I'm flying solo. It's just me. You have to put it with, but that's okay. I have a interesting topic that I thought is timely, and I think everybody will relate to, and it will be interesting to discuss. I'm excited to discuss it as I'm dealing with it on a daily basis. So let's jump into it. So, AI and the fear of AI taking security jobs away or replacing what security professionals are doing is the fear. Is that, hey, AI is going to come, it's going to take away all our work. Analysts are going to have, there's going to be less analysts because AI can do their job. When in fact, what we are living right now and dealing with is that AI is creating more security work, not less. Okay? And that might be surprising. Maybe not, but we'll dive into it and I'll explain why AI is creating more security work and what that means for you if you are looking to take advantage of this opportunity to jump in and help because of the workload and how the workload has increased and is increasing. And the fear is that, just I described, is that people are worried that I don't need as many people because AI can do X, Y, and Z. AI can work in the SOC. AI can analyze events. AI can do this, can do that. And I've gotten these questions directly. What does this mean for me in my future? Should I be worried? I am worried generally that, they are worried. Should I be concerned about how AI is changing the workforce, especially am I behind? That's the other question that I get is, am I behind if I'm not learning AI now? And what should I do about that? Right. Well, first off, let me just address the "are you behind" thought. It's everybody's behind, right? This thing is moving fast, and no one that I know of has it all figured out and understands what the future holds and knows what to expect. So we're all catching up. We're all playing catch up because things are moving very fast. So don't worry about that. If you've never used an AI tool ever, don't feel like, oh, I might as well just give it up and not worry about this. So everybody's behind. Everybody's trying to play catch up to take advantage of and deal with this new day, new dawn with AI. So I'll just put that out there, get that out of the way. But um, what the reality is that AI and the use of AI in different tools, different ways, is creating more visibility. More vulnerabilities are being discovered on a daily, weekly, whatever basis. And I read this or heard this is that the amount of CVEs that have been submitted in this past couple of quarters of this year has gone up significantly. Now, I don't know that we could go look it up and see what the CVE numbers are, but I can tell you from my experience that just in this past week, I have dealt with more reviews and analysis of vulnerabilities that have been discovered, and that trend seems to be, trending up, right? More vulnerabilities being discovered quicker, faster. The 0 day time to 0 day to exploitation is shrinking, right? So that's pretty obvious, right? If you don't agree, that's okay. But it seems to me that's pretty obvious is that the time to exploitation and the amount of vulnerabilities that are being discovered is, I mean, it makes sense that it makes sense that they're using AI to help them do that, right? Right? Why not? If you're a threat actor or a security researcher, why would you not use AI to help you do those things faster, speed up the time to discovery, speed up, especially for a threat actor, the vulnerability to exploitation phase. I mean, perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. So we have, what that means is for security teams, it feels like, and I can tell this is from experience, that we are dealing with more vulnerability discoveries than ever. More vulnerabilities are being disclosed. And what that mean? What does that mean for a security team, right? What do you think happens with a security team? You may know, but we have to go evaluate those vulnerabilities. We have to go verify if we are affected by those vulnerabilities. You can watch news sites like Bleeping Computer, Hacker News, right? And they're coming out with new articles every day, it seems like, of hey, here's a new major vulnerability. Here's a new major vulnerability. So you get those articles that are dropping, and you have to say, well, let's go find out. It's not A to B. It sometimes is, but it's rarely like, oh, yes, we know we're running that version. Because you have a major enterprise, you don't know every version that you're running. You don't know if it's actually affected. You don't know if you're configured to be vulnerable based off of that version. And you may have that version, but you might not be vulnerable. You may have that version, but you might not have it accessible where it could be exploited. So when those happen, that's what you have to figure out is what is our risk? What is our impact? Are we impacted? What does that look like? And then, of course, the follow up to that is, oh, we are impacted. Now what? Have we been exploited? Has someone is a 0-day taken advantage of that 0-day and gotten access to a system? So you have to do that forensic work if you're impacted to verify, especially if it's something that could have been exposed. Have we been hacked, right? And then hopefully you haven't, right? Knock on wood. From there, remediation. How do we make sure that we are no longer exposed? How do we close that exposure? This is all typical vulnerability stuff, but that takes time. That takes a lot of energy and a lot of teams. It's not just your security team. It's always other teams that are involved to help you investigate and validate. And so you're doing that more often. Security teams are doing that more often because more vulnerabilities are being discovered, right? So a couple of examples in higher ed was, and I can't say 100% that they were AI assisted, but it makes sense. But just last week, there was a ServiceNow vulnerability discovered by security researchers, and then a PeopleSoft vulnerability, major PeopleSoft vulnerability that had been exploited and was disclosed that affected most of higher ed, right? Most higher ed is using ServiceNow and PeopleSoft. PeopleSoft is a major one. Before that was Canvas. So Canvas is another major application that higher ed uses typically, and those things are coming out more often. There's more of these that are being disclosed on a regular basis. So on top of that, AI is helping us find our own weaknesses and our own vulnerabilities. So if you can imagine, you have thousands of systems, thousands of applications, and you have a lot of data. There's always been more data than you typically could analyze from a vulnerability standpoint or from a weakness standpoint, a configuration standpoint. So utilizing AI to help you review that data is awesome because that's what it's really good at doing. But now you have to do something when you find those, right? You have to go, you can't unsee what you found, what you discovered, what your team has discovered. So now somebody has to go remediate, validate, verify, configure, change or update or patch. That's more work. You're creating more work for yourself. Now, this is good work because you want to find this before a threat actor finds it, but it's still more work. More work is being created. We are doing more work because we are finding our own vulnerabilities, not necessarily like CVEs, but weaknesses or verifying and reviewing our own vulnerability data to prioritize what needs to be patched, right? On top of that, we're using AI assisting us to help with internal and external penetration tests, right? So using the data that we discover to prioritize things that we might have missed before or not have been able to connect the dots of like, oh, well, this is something that you should go take a look at because there's a potential, path to exploitation here, right? Well, that's great. And that's what you want to be doing, but you want to be proactive. This is kind of like people are talking about being mythos ready. Are you mythos ready or mythos? That's the new debate, mythos or mythos or mythos. I don't know, whatever. I say mythos. Mythos sounds cool, like more Greek. But are you mythos ready? Well, people are using these tools to help see if there are things that we can discover before some super tool were to come out that would find these a lot faster than you could manually. And that's what we're doing. We're using those tools to help us, and we're finding things, which is awesome because we may have not find or discovered those things without going to look, but also it would have taken us longer to find them without help from AI tools. But what does that mean? Well, there's more work being done to use those tools to find those weaknesses, and there's more work to do to fix those weaknesses. Not less work, more work, which is where we are right now. Now, I'm not talking about the future yet, but right now, this is where we're living. This is what we're doing. All right. So, AI governance is a key, a new hot topic term that's out there about AI governance. It's the new hotness. If you haven't heard it's a new hotness, it will be. Don't just wait, right? I'm sure all the GRC folks are just loving that term, AI governance. Well, as somebody who's living and breathing AI governance, I can tell you it's definitely a thing, and it's probably one of the most things that take the most time of our team right now and myself. And why is that? Well, everybody wants to use AI because it's the next magic whatever. And so you want to give those teams capabilities that maybe they could take advantage of, just like we're doing. But there's there's risk of the data classification, what data is being used, what are they going to share with the tool? Do we have an agreement with that company that they want to work with? Are they going to train on our data? All those things you have to answer and review and validate, and it's kind of like third-party risk management, but I would say magnified, because let's say you have a tool that you've partnered with. Well, now everybody wants to use that tool, which is okay because that's the tool you've sanctioned and said, we have a data sharing agreement with this company. This is the one to use. Don't use your home version, which is better, right? Use the one that is approved. But now everybody wants to connect everything to that tool. Oh, we want to connect this and OneDrive and Box and Slack and Teams and 365, Office 365, Outlook and whatever, right? And so from that, these are new questions and a new frontier of, well, I don't know. Like we've never done that before. We've never had to evaluate whether or not it's okay to connect these. Well, what is the impact? What is the risk? What could happen? What's the worst case scenario, right? Which is where we live. Well, let's use Box as an example. Maybe you have a higher data classification on Box that says you can put the most restrictive data in Box because you've got a BAA with Box and it's agreed upon and you have terms and yada, yada, yada. Well, but maybe your AI tool, you don't have that highest classification, and people want to connect Box to that tool because it's going to make their life easy. I can go review all my files in Box and have it do all the things. And when it's connecting, it may gobble in that data. Like, it's going to use the data that you say, hey, go find this for me, right? And AI wants to be helpful and handy, and it wants to do the thing you asked it to do. Well, then you've had maybe a data spillage, or the data that has been retrieved could be a higher level than it should have in the AI tool. So you have to explain to people that, look, I know you want this connector, I know you want this feature, but, and I know it's awesome and it's, it's great, but here's the risk. Here's what could happen. So those are happening all the time, every day. You may have a company that has all the tools. Maybe they've got Claude and ChatGPT and Gemini and Copilot, and now everybody wants to connect all those things to everything. Oh, I like this one better. Oh, I like that one better, right? And you're having to, not just one times or 5 times, you're multiplying that over and over and over. It's exponential, because you got to make a decision here and here and here, and for this and for this and for this, and everybody has different use cases. That is definitely a lot of time that has increased the workload for security teams and in GRC, and specifically in GRC in a way. It could be either one, but it's really GRC of, what is the risk? Are we going to approve this? Are we not going to approve this? Can we scope it? And guess what? In my experience with these AI tools, they do not give you all the granularity and security that you would love to have to be able to scope it to just the right people or just the right access. They are not fully baked, enterprise ready security, role-based tools. Now, they have role-based security, but it's not as granular as you would like it to. Oh, okay, I'm going to give this person specific access to use this because they have justified the need. A lot of times it's a all or nothing, or it becomes too untenable to just do onesie, twosie, threesie. That's part of the problem too. It's like, well, this is going to be, how many people do you have to go evaluate every use case? Or can you say, well, we're okay with this up to this level? There needs to be more capabilities built into these tools from an enterprise level to make it easier to give just the access that's needed. And also monitoring and also auditing. They are not great tools in the AI capabilities that I've seen yet. Hopefully they'll get there. But that is a significant amount of time that's being spent. On the defensive side, this is where, the question that, and we've talked about this before, of in the SOC and analysts, and how they're dealing with, how is AI going to take over what capabilities or jobs that a analyst does. And right now, I mean, and I mentioned this before, but in our experience, it is a great assistant. It is helping. There's always been more data than you can ever look at, and especially in security, and especially in an analyst role, right? There's always false positives. There's always event data that you can't go look at because it's not significant enough. So it's very helpful to weed through that data to find things that stand out in the haystack of needles, to find the needle, right? And so that's not taking away from what we need. We're not saying, oh, now we need less people. It's just giving us a force multiplier for what we have. So now we can use that tool and the capabilities of that tool to help speed up the time to detect or go threat hunting, and use it as an assistant to weed through all the noise to help us find if there's an impact, right? So it's just another tool. And I know I've mentioned this before, so I won't belabor that point, but it isn't taking away. It's not less work. It's more capability to what you're already doing in my experience. Okay. So what does this mean for you? And you could call this maybe the AI workload paradox, right? What's the paradox? Well, you think that AI is going to do all these things for you. Well, it's not the case. It's not doing all the things for you. You are having to utilize and or feel the impact of AI from vulnerabilities being discovered, from people using AI to attack you, right? Now, is there possibilities where the capabilities will help stop more threats? Yeah, that's already happening. Tools already have AI baked into those, or machine learning. That's already a thing to help you find those threats and mitigate them faster. But that doesn't mean we have less to do. It means we may have less alerts, alerts to go triage, but that doesn't mean all the alerts have gone away, right? And I do have hope that it's going to help us stop threats in different ways and with better capability than we've had in the past. I hope so, but there's always going to be that arms race, always, of we have a tool, they have a better tool. Their tool, we get better, they get better. We get better, they get better, right? Um, it's just understanding and taking advantage of those tools for the future. What does this mean for people trying to break into cybersecurity? So I would say there's some good opportunities here, right? I think vulnerability management is just going to be more and more important, and understanding basic vulnerability management, right? How to understand CVEs, read vulnerability reports, prioritize vulnerability patching based off of risk, how to validate vulnerabilities, how to explain that clearly. That's all the basics of understanding vulnerability management. And it's never going to go away unless we have robots write all the code and they know how to write it without writing vulnerabilities, which is never going to happen because they've learned how to write code from humans. I don't think it's ever going to happen. But right now, what I see is that's going to continue to increase. More vulnerabilities are going to be discovered. Therefore, more work needs to be done in this area. I think there's going to be more people that are needed to manage all those vulnerabilities. I do think there's an opportunity there to start learning how to take advantage of AI with your vulnerability management program, right? How would you ingest that data to help weed through the noise of false positives, the noise of low to medium, or even high vulnerabilities that aren't maybe the most important? Maybe there's not an exploit available, or maybe there is, but the way it's configured is not configured to be vulnerable, right? There's a lot of those little pieces that AI could help you weed through the data to help you prioritize what needs to be patched as soon as possible, or prioritize based off of your patch management schedule. So I think there's a huge opportunity there. Hooked into that is kind of how that overlaps into offensive security, of using tools to ingest data of like internal scanning. Say you're scanning your perimeter, you're scanning your internal assets, you're scanning things, you're looking for weaknesses, you're identifying versions, like web scanning, right? Maybe you've got a web scanner that's running nuclei and it's scanning all your front facing stuff. Well, that's a lot of data. And using AI to help you weed through that data is a great thing to know how to do. And somebody asked you that in an interview. Yep, I know how to use these tools to help identify vulnerabilities faster. Boom. Right. So I think I think you will see more positions looking for that skill set because of this increased workload. All right. The other one is AI governance, right? So, uh, you know, because there are more things that are coming through the pipeline for requests of, I want this AI tool, or I want to turn on this AI feature, or I want to connect this thing that has data in it that to my existing AI tool. Those are, man, that's all over the place, right? And I think everybody's learning by doing. There's no book on this that's like perfect that I've seen that's like, here's the rule set. And it's all going to be different based off of your environment, your risk tolerance, all the typical things when it comes to a risk decision. But understanding, here's some good examples. Well, a good example. If you have never used a tool, one of these tools, and then you are being asked to evaluate whether it's okay to turn on a feature, how can you understand and make an informed decision to do that or not? a lot of times we will turn on the feature for my team or myself to kick the tires on it because no one has ever used it before in our organization. And we don't know. I don't know. What could it do? What is the worst case scenario? So understanding, I'm fortunate in that I've used a lot of these tools. I've used these tools and that I have more information. It's kind of back to the build fundamentals of, you don't have to build an AI from scratch, although if you can, that'd be amazing. You could install one like Llama or something, Olama or something like that, right? And it gives you even more understanding of how it works. But at least having used it, you can, and being I would say a power user of it, you are more informed to help make a risk-based decision because you know what it's talking about. You know what that feature is. And if you don't, you at least have the foundation to go try it and test it and use it. And now you understand, okay, all right, now I understand how this function works. How would connecting it to this data set or using it, what could a threat actor do, or what would be the worst case scenario if someone accidentally did X, Y, or Z? I think that's a huge opportunity to investigate. I don't have all the answers. I don't have a class that I could say, hey, go take this class and you'll be ready to rock. But I do think, like, one thing you could do, and if you're in this GRC world and you want to be, is think about the privacy and the security and a policy. Look at the policies that are out there. Go investigate what policies are written about AI policies. There's not a lot of them, so you can go get an idea and a sense of what people are saying that they are allowing or not allowing for their institution, if it's publicly available, for AI tools, right? And understanding what that governance looks like. And even with that governance, it's always like you can have a great policy, but it still doesn't mean it answers all the questions on, oh, I want to do this. It usually doesn't. But being able to think through those scenarios. So in our school community, I actually dropped one of these scenarios that's based off of a real scenario that we have had to deal with and are having to deal with. Just saying, hey, here's an example. Go through this. How would you make a decision? What would you say the risk is? Write it up in your own, in English, in basic English understanding to explain to the person that's requesting it. Just to help give you an idea of some of these examples that you could work through and work on to get practice with. All right, and I mentioned this with the AI operations, SOC operations with AI. How could you use it to help you be better prepared for a job in a SOC? Well, yeah, I mean, here's a good way to practice is log analysis and querying. Like I'm fairly proficient in Splunk, used it for a long time, but I will use it to help me write better Splunk queries. Now, sometimes it writes Splunk queries that are not that great, but a lot of times it's really good, and I will tune it because I've done the manual work first. I know how to tune it to make it better, or I know how to tweak it to make it more accurate to what I'm trying to do, right? So using it for those kind of events, I mean, just makes you faster, right? Imagine you have an incident that has happened and you need to investigate. Well, how about let's use the tool to help us weed through thousands of log entries to get to the things that are the most interesting. Man, that's going to make you faster, right? So that skill, that practice is a thing you can do and simulate and work with to help you understand how you would use it or could use it in a real SOC job. Okay. And we've talked about this stuff before, but all right. Just lastly, on the leadership angle of what this means for security teams is, I think most security teams I've seen, they get this, right? They're not burying their head in the sand of like, well, let's not think about this right now. I think everybody is being confronted with it and being forced because people want to use it and all these other reasons I've mentioned. I think it's good to be proactive and take advantage of what capabilities it gives you for your teams so that you can utilize that to be more proactive. I think that's the big thing, being more proactive, being more productive. Now it will create more work, but you would rather find that than somebody else finds it or a threat actor finds it, right? Um, so use it as a force multiplier. All right. So that's kind of just debunking the theory that AI is going to make less work or create less work for security teams. In my experience and my team's experience, it's creating more work for security teams right now. Will that shift in the future? I don't know. I can't tell you. But definitely right now, we are doing more things. We have more things going on because of AI, really. Not, I mean, you can point it right at AI and how it's increasing the workload across the board in different areas on the operations side, on the GRC side, on both. So I hope that's helpful. I hope it gives you some encouragement that you're not behind, that you've not missed the bus. There's a lot to do. We need solid people that are going to help us. That need is still there and is going to increase still, in my opinion. I don't think it's going to decrease. It just is more effective, right? So go forth and conquer. Come check out our school community. We'd love to have you. We've got some of these scenarios that we drop in there of practice that you can do in our classroom area just to help give you an idea. And a lot of times I'll use real incidents that I have defanged and anonymized to create practice examples that I will drop and we will drop into the community that are based off of real events or real incidents or real vulnerabilities or whatever, right? It's based off of real data. That's it. Have a great one, and we will talk to you soon.